A magical season had a crushing defeat. That shouldn't diminish the Panthers' season one bit, as they won a conference championship and 11 games for the first time since 1981. The question is now, can they build on it? We discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world!
Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt. This is the week of January 8th, 2022. And this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
With an injury to Nick Patty and a pick six, our peaches turned sour and rotten at the end of last year. But the hope ain't going nowhere. Because Pitt just delivered one hellacious season, and we got to review it today, Vince. I am not bummed at all that they lost the Peach Bowl. I mean, the disappointment maybe lasted for 30 seconds, and then I said, damn fine season in my mind. I don't know if you did any punching in the air or breaking things. It didn't feel like that kind of game where you were frustrated.
Yeah, well,
bummed for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. I would say that, certainly.
If anything, sorry, but I was angrier when Nick Patty got hurt than anything.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. Couldn't help but just feel awful for that kid. Waited his turn, was playing really well in a big showcase game for him. Getting hurt, putting his body on the line. Just so disappointing. Very upset about that. A little bit disappointing during that final interception at the end of the game. But like you said, Alan, I quickly got over it. And we're going to be talking about that because there's a lot to be excited about for the Panthers in the future, in my opinion. And I think that the sky is the limit for this team this coming season. I can't wait to talk about that with you after we recap this big old Peach Bowl.
Yeah, I'm excited. A review of the season, a recap of the Peach Bowl, looking at some transfers today, coaching rumors. We're going to have a lot of fun. The season did not end exactly as we hoped, but it was the whole season overall. If you want to do a quick Spark Notes review of the Pitt 2021 season.
Spark Notes.
A lot better than we hoped. And you know what? That's how this podcast, I think, is going too. A lot better than we hope, than you hope. And now we're all in it. We're having fun every week. Welcome to the show. At H2P Show on Twitter is where you can reach out to us on social media. Hail to Pitt with us there. Give us comments, questions, interact. And of course, if you want to send an email, hail the number 2 Pitt podcast at gmail.com. That's hail to Pitt podcast at gmail.com. We appreciate all the feedback and interaction everywhere on the Pitternet, including Panther Lair and Reddit and wherever else you're hailing to Pitt, and we're there as well. And we are brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. All season long, Pretty Easy Podcasts helping us hail to Pitt each and every week with you here on the show. They get the editing of the show done, the recording of it, make us sound decent, add our music, add some funky sound effects here and then. Some Pat Narduzzi highlights. They do whatever we tell them, really. We don't give them too much work. But hey, if you want to give them a bunch of work, go to prettyeasypodcast.com and you could get a producer, editor, whatever you need as a podcaster at an affordable rate. Most importantly, podcasting should be 2 things: easy and inexpensive. And they're both when you go to prettyeasypodcast.com. Check it out now.
And they make podcasting pretty easy.
So Michigan State beat the Pitt Panthers 31-21, Vince. Deceiving. Wasn't really a 10-point victory for Michigan State in the sense of they beat Pitt's ass by double digits. It was a pick six at the end of the game that stretched it a little bit and won people some money. But the fact is Pitt did lose this game, and in the fourth quarter, for me, the biggest thing, outscored 21-0, and that I think, was easily evident by the fact that they were playing with a third-string quarterback. Now, you might call it an excuse, but come on. Big bowl game, and you're down to your third-string QB that nobody was expecting Davis Beville to be in this game. And if I'm grading it, I would give him a B-. It wasn't too shabby.
Yeah, I don't think he played horrible. I mean, you could clearly see he's got some arm talent, and yeah, we saw that earlier in the year when he played against New Hampshire, where he threw some really nice balls. But here in this game, he had a couple good drives, but not enough good drives. Too many drives that didn't go very far at all, and really had a difficult time with that pass rush, Alan. I got to ask you right off the bat, no Mark Whipple calling plays here. You had Coach Salem calling the plays. You had Coach Marion 1 foot out the door. Do you think that the game plan should have been adjusted a little bit more on the fly to account for maybe any of Beville's shortcomings?
Yeah, there were two things in this. One, Pitt in that moment with Davis Beville, I can't believe he got as far down the field as he did. I did not expect him to rise to that occasion. And ultimately it got the best of him, got kind of tricked into throwing that pick six and was resilient. Maybe even more than him. You're right, Vince. The handicap for Pitt in this game was the big changes in the play calling on offense. And also when you have a coach who's eyeing a spot at a future SEC school in Texas, and Coach Marion go to Texas. And then you really have Salem comes into this game, and he didn't protect Beville in any sort of way. I don't even really think he was ready to protect Patty, and it didn't feel like what I was hoping for. The tight ends were being incorporated by this game plan, which I thought would have been a great way to alleviate pressure, maintain some protection, and not put them out there. And really, they turned it into a conservative type game. There were a lot of 3 and outs, but he only threw 18 times, Davis Beville. But Pitt really didn't even run 40 times. They didn't have the ball at all in this game. But that's because they just weren't making, I think, smart enough, too conservative on first and second down. And really, I think the tight ends would have been the answer to that, and they were nowhere to be found really in this game.
Yeah, a little disappointing. I mean, there were some. I mean, Lucas Kroll did have some drops in this game, Alan. I can't stress that enough. He had some drops, particularly a big one at the beginning of the game on that very first drive from Nick Patty. Jordan Addison also had a drop on that drive. If they don't have that, maybe they're not pinned deep. Maybe Michigan State doesn't get that first touchdown to go up on them. Maybe that makes somewhat of a difference. But I agree with you. They were doing a lot of short passes, and especially it's not like they had a lot of max protection either. They had 4 and 5 wide receiver sets. Quite a bit. Just really relying on Davis Beville to sink or swim out there. But I agree with you. I would have liked to seen, maybe working some maybe more intermediate routes, some safer routes, to get with some of those matchup problems that they have with those tight ends. I think that could have helped out a little bit more. It's tough to say whenever drives end so quickly.
Yeah, and there was really two options they were giving Beville in this game with the game plan. You could dink it or you could dunk it, and that's all. But they weren't really max protecting. There was no misdirection either. They weren't trying to get Michigan State to move either way on the field and think about what was coming at them. It was kind of pretty straightforward. Pin your ears back and go crush this third string quarterback. And, the fact that Pitt was pretty dominant until the very end of this fourth quarter, I thought the second half they played really well to get back into it. It was doomed from the start, though. That kickoff that started the game. Come on, you knew the omen lands on the 1 yard line. Come on, this is just a bad sign. I think in this game too, they were missing a ton of guys, most notably Kenny Pickett, but then also Banakanda. One of my personal favorites, Keyshawn Camp. We talked about Mathis wasn't going to play in this game. Did those hurt Pitt? Sure. But, Michigan State was missing guys too. Pitt could have won this game maybe with just a little bit more thought into the offensive game plan. And who knows, maybe they were just so confident in Nick Patty and that changed everything. And if you want to call an excuse, go ahead. But, third string quarterback in a bowl game and to make it as close as they did, I don't think if as a fan, you can't ask anything else from the Pitt Panthers. Winning this game, what would it have done for Pitt? Probably not much, except maybe getting a few more youngsters to recognize, there's a school that just won a big bowl game when I'm considering, but not really. Come on. This game, let's face it, we're going to talk more about the state of college football and these types of bowl games later. It, in the grand scheme, meant nothing. It just, for me as a fan, wanted to be proud of my team in this game, and I am. I'm proud of the effort.
Yeah. They were. It was interesting. There were a lot of guys that were out in this game. A lot of youngsters playing in big moments.
I told you Deion Hayes was coming for this one.
He was, and he showed. He really showed up there. There was no Keyshawn Camp, no Deslin Alexander on that defensive line. Deion Hayes getting some more snaps there. I think he really showed that there's a bright future for that defensive line. But even just beyond him, there were a lot of younger players, particularly on defense. Now, I'm not gonna be a little naive here and say that maybe Michigan State was doing at a similar situation. Maybe they were playing a lot of younger guys. I wasn't as up to date on their roster to say one way or another. But you put the guys out there that you have. But make no mistake about it, that was not the Pitt team that went 11-2 and won the ACC championship. That was not that team that played in that game that had that tremendous shutdown performance against Wake Forest. That's not what we got there. But they were able to hang in there and play really tough against Michigan State. Only held their offense to 24 points in the game, and made a lot of big stops, and eventually broke down at the end. You got to think, for a Pitt team, if you're only giving up 24 points on defense, most of the time you're going to win this season,
right?
Yes. So So even with a lot of backups, you got to really give them credit for what they did.
And Michigan State, hell of a running team, yep. Although, of course, missing their running back in this game, much like Pitt missing their best player in Kenny Pickett. But Run D was as advertised, shut him down. Peyton Thorne had to throw 50 times in this game, and credit to him, he got the completions at the moments he needed them. Timely touchdown, and put the pressure back on Davis Bevel, and that's where they wanted it. So really just props to him. But the Pitt defense otherwise, besides that breakdown at the end, living on the edge of a lightning bolt the way the secondary always does, it bit them. Okay, but that's what happens. The fact that they, like you said, only gave up 24 points, that's what we need to acknowledge. Defense played fine, good enough to win this game. And I am so hyped, though, for the future. We saw a lot of bright spots that will get you excited, and that's what these bowl games really are all about. And Deion Hayes, cannot speak enough about him. Just looked like a raw athlete out there making plays, some tackles for loss, really looking good. And the mantle, I think, will be passed on the defensive line, and it's going to be another good year next year in that regard. Also looking at this game, Jordan Addison, when you win a big award, you should go out your next game and continue to show why you did that. And he did. Lived up to his accolades. Proud of it. Proud to see pretty much top to bottom. There's not really a disappointment in this game I could pick out other than the final score, and that was the most meaningless thing of all. It's basically an exhibition game.
It was. And I feel that, certainly with, the impact that the transfer portal has had on Pitt so far, they are going to be a top 20 team, at least, you would think, going into next season. And, whether they're top 20 or top 10, I don't know if that matters a whole hell of a lot to the Pitt Panthers going into next season. But yeah,
just matters to me because I don't want to have to flip so many pages in the Phil Steele college football.
You want to
preview
start at
just
the
to get to
beginning.
Pitt.
I see.
I want them as early in the ACC section as
Well,
possible.
I have a feeling they're going to be pretty early. But if they would have won the game, they would have finished in the top 10 this year. That would have been a hell of an accomplishment. They would have been ranked probably a little bit higher next year.
Yeah.
But overall,
and that would have made us feel good. But I mean, also look at where we're at in college football. We're going back to a rematch of Alabama, Georgia. And at the end of the season, no one is going to think about any other teams but those two, because that's where we're at in the sport right now.
Yeah, that seems to be the way it is. But just a tremendous season. I'm not as you said, Alan. Just can't be too upset about that loss.
Maybe if we went down to Georgia for this game and invested the time and energy to go to the game and watch them lose, that would be because then I was sitting at home warm watching the game. Bummer, we lost. And then I see they showed like some Pitt fans crying on the TV. I'm like, oh, what are you doing crying at the Peach Bowl? Oh, wait, you went all the way down to Atlanta, risked your life, kind of, and and also probably a real drunk and emotional. So I understand that, but in the grand scheme, 31-21 Peach Bowl loss, bummer. But the fact Pitt was in this game,
a
prestigious New Year's Six. Neither of us predicted it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and that's no, definitely did not. And you look at some of the things that happened in this game, Alan. There was that 3rd and 1 late in the game. A lot of people thought that Bartholomew guy got the first down, which would have extended a drive. Eventually, Michigan State scoring on that next possession. They did that pitch to the outside that went nowhere. Maybe if Abanaconda doesn't get hurt and he's the one taking that ball, maybe he gets to the corner, gets that first down. Maybe if Whipple was calling the play, maybe they don't do that and they get the first down. That's the thing. Oh, I'm so mad at the play calling in this game. Well, that wasn't the offensive coordinator, and he's not going to be the offensive coordinator next year. So what are you worried about?
Exactly. Yeah, I think let's simplify things here. Really, Pitt only lost this game because they didn't have the Hayward. Michigan State had Connor Hayward, the 6-foot tight end, or whatever you want to call him, with the incredible catch, ass kicker from an ass kicker family, and they beat him. And he had the play of the game. What a fun player to watch. I'm so mad he didn't come to Pitt. This was my first time really watching him shine like that. And man, he stuck it to his dad's alma mater. Credit to him.
Yeah, he did play a good game. But Alan, I'm going to use one of your phrases here. This was not Michigan State playing good. This was just us playing bad.
That was a pretty good catch, though.
It was.
He looked like me in not intramural, because I had to play quarterback. If I would have played tight end H-back in intramural at Pitt, my name would be up at the cost center right now.
You did.
I'd be the Connor Hayward.
You lined up as an eligible lineman plenty of times, but your skills were more needed in the blocking.
Yeah, and quarterback in emergency situations too. But man, this game very forgettable for me, and we move on next year. I haven't had this much hope for a Pitt season where I felt confident that they could win in the ACC era. I felt like, Pitt can win the Coastal. Now this is the first season I'm going in thinking they could win the whole damn ACC, even though Clemson's reloading, of course, and Miami's going to be good. But man, what an exciting time to be a Pitt fan and a fan in the ACC. I think it's kind of wide open, and that's what you want, even though ultimately national championships are, maybe 2-3 teams will be vying for that next year. But this season in review, Vince, if you're ready to move on from the Peach Bowl loss, lots to say about it. I don't know what my favorite moment of the year had to be the fake slide, right?
Maybe for an individual play, I'll agree with you there. But there was a lot of stuff. If I'm looking at games, I would say, I think the best moment is winning that ACC championship game for sure. But I think there's a lot to be said for the Clemson victory at home. I can't stress that enough. I think there's a lot.
Monkey off the back type game, a big game that they won a game they should have won, but really there were some doubts. There was a lot of mental hurdles to get over in that one.
They won that game in they dominated a team that was significantly more talented than them. Obviously not at the quarterback position, but but they dominated a team that was a lot more talented. It wasn't like they had to come from behind and have this kind of victory that they just pulled one out of nowhere. They beat them almost pillar to post, and just a very impressive victory. It shows that they are going to come out swinging against people. And it's going to be interesting to see next season when they go up against a talented team. That Tennessee team that they're going to play next year. If you saw them towards the end of the season, if you saw them in their bowl game, that team has some players on it. I'm
just glad we caught them on the road this year and not next year.
They've obviously
get them at home when they're better.
They've obviously improved since then, Alan, and that was a huge game in this season. Winning a road game against an SEC opponent, something that people thought could not be done. Pitt somehow came out and did that. That's going to be a massive game next year. Can't wait for that one.
Also, the only game I think you and I watched in the same room.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
all year. Yeah. That was a big one. That was a special win. I really enjoyed that win. I might put that in my top 3. I might have it the fake slide, winning the ACC title, and then I would maybe put Tennessee ahead of Clemson personally, just because I like seeing Pitt beat an SEC school. That'd be my 3, and my 2 has to be heaven just raining down on the Tar Heels and denying them a victory.
Yeah, that one hasn't been talked about enough, but it probably should be.
Bigger win than the Clemson win. I mean, really, when you think about it, that one was closer, more. It was sweatier. It was grimier. It was rougher. Yeah. It was tougher. It was more, maybe even more of a mental hurdle because that team, damn them, and what they do to the Pitt psyche. But Pitt got over it.
Yeah,
with some help from above.
Yeah, that's
30-23 in the overtime.
That's 2 wins in a row against those North Carolina Tar Heels. So it feels that the tide is finally changing in that series. They're gonna want blood for sure whenever we go down to Chapel Hill this year. What could be a very pivotal game.
Oh man, that's going to be exciting. But is Sam Howell's gone?
He will be gone. But now they have been, recruiting some highly ranked classes. We'll see how that goes. But when you're losing a guy like that, that's definitely not easy to replace.
That might be my biggest surprise of the year too. That now we're going to be going towards the draft in a few months. And Kenny Pickett has surpassed Sam Howell as the top quarterback to be drafted coming up. I mean, it might have been more likely that Pitt wins the ACC than that happening. Sam Howell was the lock QB coming out this year.
Yeah, he was. and somehow, Pitt went out and beat him.
They beat him, and Kenny surpassed him and everybody else. Obviously, Kenny Pickett with a season for the ages that we'll remember forever. Would you say it's the biggest surprise, his incredible season of the season?
Well, I think we knew he had it in him. To me, the biggest surprise is just overall they put it all together and won a lot of games. I'm not going to say it's any individual performance. I mean, the fact that they somehow came together and did this. It's just impressive.
Or were you more surprised they lost to Western Michigan?
No, not surprised by that at all, unfortunately.
No, not at all. And Ellaby's coming out. He declared for the draft. I'm interested to see where he goes. NFL teams could use a RPO QB who knows how to throw a slant over and over and over.
That will be a much easier game, hopefully, when we travel up to Kalamazoo this year.
Oh man, I might have to make it to that one if the pandemic slows down. I'd love to see Kalamazoo was that a early fall game? It's beautiful, the foliage.
It is an early fall game.
So multiple surprises. You're right. Overall, just the fact they put it all together is the biggest surprise, Vince. But what about doing it again? Have a Heisman candidate, win the ACC, get to a big bowl game. Can that happen again next year?
I think so. Keaton Slovis, coming in from Southern Cal, if this kid can regain that form, that he had a couple years ago before that football program of USC just went up in flames, then I think that they absolutely 100% can duplicate this. They're going to have a tremendous amount coming back on offense, even with some key additions we're going to be talking about here. On defense, you're going to have a lot of guys coming back, over half your starters, plus some young guys that we have been waiting to see. Every year is a different team, no doubt about that. But this team has a lot to be excited about, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this, Alan. I hope you're as optimistic as I am.
I am optimistic, but because of all the unknowns, I'll say I wouldn't bet on the exact duplication of this season. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, but then the lot stay the same. Offensive line continuity is very underrated, and that's even without superstar offensive linemen. That's a good thing to have. And then also defensively, really, that's the one thing you could always rely on Pitt. They're going to be coming after quarterbacks. Secondary could maybe even improve. We'll see. And of course, we're loving our linebackers. So defensively, I'm optimistic that it can happen. But the big question: Slovis, injury riddled, and also the new offensive coordinator. Those are going to be the determining factors, I think, as we assess it early on now. But duplicating it, I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility, but very tough to have a season like this. And I'm going to hold Pitt to this standard now, though, because they've shown us they can do it. So I will be upset if it's not duplicated. I'll say that.
Well, I will be a little upset as well. I think this team has shown a tremendous amount, and that they are able to, kind of, I'm not quite sure what the right word is. That hopefully that they've shown enough that they could get some continuity, that they've learned how to win, and they have that winning culture in the program, and they'll be able to continue these kind of performances nonstop. It's very difficult to win every year, no doubt about that. But Coach has really amassed a tremendous amount of talent here, to the effect that they can win multiple years in a row, and they're going to be picked. I'm not saying they're going to be picked to win the ACC, but certainly in the top 3. You got to think going into next season, there's going to be high expectations. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be dark horse picks to even make the college football playoff. I think there's going to be some dark horse people out there.
A chance to go get embarrassed by Alabama on a national stage. All right.
There's going to be people saying that. I mean, if you had a Michigan team that's been floundering for years make it, you had a Cincinnati team that a lot of people do not think even deserved to get there. Think that maybe this team is finally going to be able to put together, not have any letdown losses. I think it's possible. We'll see. There's a long way to go before we get there. But I think this learning how to win, demolishing a lot of these lesser opponents, if they could stay sharp and maybe finally finish a non-conference season with no losses, I think that's going to go a long way.
Well, they've shown that they can under-promise and over-deliver. Now they have to show that they could promise and deliver. And once you've shown us you could do it, you got to keep doing it. That's college football. And winning the ACC, or at least, competing, getting to that ACC championship, winning the Coastal certainly, and, producing high quality, high caliber players. That's what Pitt does. Win national championships these days, maybe not. But really, you're wishing on a star there if you're any school other than a couple of them. So I'm hoping for similar outcomes next year and a bowl victory. Maybe the bowl game next year means more, Vince, because coming off of a loss, you definitely want next year's bowl game to be a victory. A lot of circumstances that made this bowl game not as crucial. But next year, I already feel the pressure to win the bowl game next year, no matter what game it is. Even if it's in El Paso, I want to win it now.
Yeah, I mean that is the one.
Does that
thing
make
that
sense, right? I
this.
mean, when you lose one, now you got to win one.
Yeah, for a long time, Coach, he's only won one bowl game since he's been here. That's a big thing. As meaningless as we say some of these games are, it would have been nice to finish this season, and maybe we'll be finishing this season with a very meaningful performance. Hopefully, a very meaningful game on the line.
Hopefully. But he did win the big one in the ACC championship game, so you got to give Narduzzi credit there. And
yes.
Really, I just am a fan of stability in any program. I think firing coaches is overrated after rough seasons, and Pat Narduzzi really hasn't given us too rough of a season, I feel like, where I've ever come out of it saying I hope he's gone. And I think I'm long way away from that. He's got some cachet now with me, at least. I don't know about you, Vince, but Pat Narduzzi now is the Pitt football coach indefinitely, if you ask me, unless he wants some sort of other job. I know his heart is in some other places, Michigan State being one of them, but their coach is going nowhere. So I think we should be pretty comfortable as fans too with the situation, knowing how crazy topsy-turvy that part of the game could be for a lot of schools and their fans.
Yeah. I mean, especially if he could put together a back-to-back season of big wins, of big win total seasons. I mean, that right there is kind of saying, he's going to be here for a long time, and if he wants to be, obviously, that it doesn't seem like there'd be any reason to make a change. I don't especially if he has a big win season next year, you got to think that he's kind of built a big enough of a program that it's not going to just falter or anything like that.
Well, every year everyone has their how many wins does Narduzzi need to keep his job this year? For me, next year it's 5. Maybe.
No, I think it's yeah. Well, I don't even want to think about if it would be, if he wouldn't obtain that number of wins. I don't even want to think about it.
All right, we won't. We'll just think about all the promise Pitt has going into the next season because of the work they did this year. I think great improvement by the offensive line. Right? Would you say that too? Maybe that might be one of the surprises, the continuity and the stability and the improvement in the run game slightly. They're a little bit better this year, and they protected Kenny, most importantly.
Yeah. Overall, I thought they played pretty well. They weathered the storm with a lot of injuries, several guys being out, and they came together, and they weren't perfect, but they certainly played very well, and they're all coming back next year. So there's going to be some high competition for those spots. And that's one of the things why, I bet if you look at your Phil Steele magazines or your Lindy's magazines, they're going to be projected to do well, particularly early in the season, because they have that offensive line coming back. That's so critical.
Lindy's. I guess if some people still check that out, me, Phil Steele all the way. And maybe also, some PFF we've been using this year. It hasn't done us too wrong. But there you go. Season 2021, Vince, in the books. It was a good one. Pitt has some transfer portal action going on too, though. They have lost Shockey Jock-Louis, Todd Sibley, Cam Bright, Noah Palmer. but I like those guys as players, particularly Cam Bright and Shockey Jacques. The Pitt losing those players, is that going to crush the hopes of next year? No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge deal. Sibley, Palmer, those are special teams guys and good special teams players. Can't stress that enough. Good teammates to have. Cam Bright, probably the biggest one. This was a guy that was, he could have just left the team altogether. He was just be coming back for a COVID year. A lot of people thought he would go to, enter the NFL draft or maybe the USFL draft or start training for the XFL draft.
Never too early.
Never too early for that. But he announced he's transferring, staying in college football. Pitt's had a lot of linebacker transfers this year. If you look towards next season, if you're looking at a position group that may be a little bit thin, it's going to be that linebacker position. Although, there were some guys, we're still going to have Servassier Dennis there. We've got a transfer coming in that we're going to be talking about. Bangley Kamara, a young pup out there, a very rangy athlete, played a fair amount in that Peach Bowl that a lot of people are high on. So there's going to be some spots up for grabs at that linebacker position. And then Shockey, a guy that just never seemed to put it all together. He had some decent games, but Pitt seems to be doing very well at that wide receiver position at the moment. So, as of right now, you hate to lose some of these guys, but Pitt does need scholarships, and it's important to note there are still several scholarships over the limit at this point. So there are going to be some more attrition coming down the line.
I blame you for Shockey Jacques going. You called him out every week.
Yeah,
we got tired of it. But you know what? Best of luck to him because he's a fun a player I like. And you can't hold grudges in college football with the transfer portal either. Less so than you would if you're a fan of an NFL team and a player requests a trade or gets traded. I'll be more upset about this. These are young men and their futures are on the line. They're doing what's best. But that's in the attrition coming, Vince. So I guess I'm thinking more guys are going to start transferring out and picking, looking for new places to go, greener pastures. Hopefully no more linebackers, though.
Hopefully no more linebackers. I don't know if we can afford to lose any more, but there are going to be a few more attritions happening.
Do you think Nick Patty will be one of them?
I do not know. I hope not. I don't think that he will. I mean, we've talked about that the past several weeks. We both kind of feel that he's a guy that's going to be sticking around, but maybe some of those other quarters may be on the way out.
How much does that injury though? Oh man, what a bummer! What an opportunity he had, and it's not his fault at all. He might have been on his way to winning the starting job for next year, for all we know. But he gets hurt diving for a touchdown. At least he scored for Pitt's sake in that game, but. You got to feel for Nick Patty. We'll see what he does, though, with his future. I think he's staying, too. But acquiring players in the transfer portal is something Pitt's getting adept at. Keaton Slovis, and now a couple of names we're going to talk about here, Vince, starting with a wide receiver.
Yeah, Contana Mumpfield, a transfer from Akron, Ohio. And on the surface, you may say, oh, who cares? It's just some receiver from Akron. How good could he be? Well, this kid was a freshman All-American, Alan. Freshman All-American, 6'1", 180 pounds. Finished the year with 63 catches for 750 yards, 8 touchdowns. So a very impressive stat line there. This kid was very highly thought of. He hardly any offers at all coming out of high school. But right now, he was being pursued by LSU, Ole Miss, Kentucky, USC, Mississippi State, Louisville, Vanderbilt. So a lot of people trying to get in on this kid, but he told the whole world that he's coming to Pitt. And you got to think with him, Keaton Slovis slinging it to him, and Jordan Addison on the other side of the field. My goodness, this could be a very lethal passing attack again next year.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited. And not to mention, we have no clue who the offensive coordinator is, but that also gives them maybe get some interest from people who are looking for a job out there that might want to come to Pitt and coach these players. What a name, too. Contana Mumpfield, freshman All-American, averaging over a first down per catch. And that name, though, totally, it feels like one of the made-up names in the old NCAA game when you'd be going on a recruiting trip in the dynasty mode.
I was going to say maybe sound like a former USFL player or something. It's got that kind of name.
Well, I'm all about it. I'm excited to see Contana Mumpfield pair up with Jordan Addison. Of course, we got that Bartholomew guy out there too. Multiple
Jared Wayne coming back.
Of course, everyone's favorite Jared Wayne. I mean, Pitt's going to be fun to watch on offense again next year, even if they'll be without Kenny Pickett. And I think Contana Mumpfield will fit in like a glove with all the weapons. Of course, it just depends on what the offensive coordinator's philosophy will be. And we right now have no clue. We just know that it won't be Coach Marion. He's leaving. We'll talk about that in a sec. But what about, let's go to the other side of the ball. Pitt scored themselves a hybrid type player, one of those small linebackers.
Yeah. Michael Dow from Michigan State is a little small, 6'1", 215. This guy did not play in the Peach Bowl. Did not play in that Peach Bowl game against Pitt. He played safety at Michigan State. Finished with 40 tackles this year. It sounds like he's going to be playing an outside linebacker position at Pitt. With that smaller frame there, a faster guy. Narduzzi, he likes to employ some of the small, fast outside linebackers. Somebody like a Johnny Patrician was this year, Alan. So while he hasn't played the position, I think he's going to be coming in here and given a lot of opportunity to get some playing time there. You got to think he's at least going to be in that top 6 linebackers if he's transferring here, especially given the lack of depth at the position. Hopefully he could pick up on it pretty quickly. He's going to be somebody I'm going to be watching in that spring game this year to see how he progresses.
Especially knowing how Pitt plays everybody on defense too. That's a good thing about losing players. They might be upset about their total playing time, but the fact is you get on the field if you're worth anything on the Pitt defense, because Pat Narduzzi likes to rotate, and that's good to know that even with the linebackers going out, they have someone coming in. We'll see that spring game. That's a player's name to circle, see what he's got. Michael Dow coming from Michigan State. Now we can move on to Coach Marion, wide receivers coach, leaving for the Texas Longhorns, Vince.
Yeah.
No go at Pitt.
Yeah.
We can't go for that.
Nope, not happening here. This was something that was talked about, kind of rumored the day before the Peach Bowl, that it was basically coming out that he was going to be there. He took the job the next day. I think this guy's a good coach. I think he's a very good.
Brennan Marion will be, I think, a head coach. I think I would bet on that somewhere in college football. Yes.
Okay.
He's too ambitious not to.
I think he's I think he can get there at some point. I think also, there's been a lot of talk about drama over social media and him openly campaigning for other jobs, and I don't want to talk about any of that stuff. But I think ultimately, I don't know if it was, offensive philosophy or what, but this guy does not have a ton of experience calling plays at this level. And I think that maybe that is the main reason why Coach Narduzzi did not elect to go with him for an offensive coordinator position. To me, it seems like he would have been very well served staying here for maybe 3 or 4 years and then becoming the offensive coordinator. I could have seen a scenario happening like that. But the bottom line is he's going to Texas. He's not going to be the sole offensive coordinator there. So he's got kind of a lateral move, but I'm sure much more pay for Coach Marion. But disappointing to lose him. The receivers did an excellent job this year, a huge improvement over years past. So you hate to lose him here. It'll be interesting to see who Pitt goes with to take that position or that position coach to pick up where he left off.
Yeah, and I mean, I could have used some comments I saw from fans on the Pitternet in our next segment, Vince, stemming from this move by Brennan Marion. Still, our favorite Marion at Pitt will always be P.T. Marion, but the Coach Marion going to Texas. Jordan Addison's not following him to Texas. Wayne's not following him to Texas. I saw people really concerned about this, Vince. Where do you put your level of concern over Coach Marion getting players to follow him down to the Longhorns to play for a Big 12 title?
I don't think that's going to happen. If it is, I certainly don't think it's going to be any superstar players. It's not going to be Jordan Addison. I'll tell you that right now. He's just not going to leave this situation here. Maybe if you were a freshman or something like that, maybe you might do that to build your career. But Texas, they got some issues still down there. A lot of people thought that they were going to come back to earth or wherever they came from. They were going to get back there this year, but just did not happen. Did not happen. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon either.
Not by the time they get to the SEC, and then it's going to be a reality check for that team. Who knows? Maybe Brennan Marion will be the head coach down there by then. Good luck to him. Really, it's fun. It's fun to read people react to that news and all the other news going on with Pitt. But we've picked out our favorites online as we do each and every single week. Vince, let's get into it and discuss all the things they're saying on the Pitternet.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
Waffle John on Panther Lair. Honestly, I don't seeing it being competitive. Let me clean that up for you, Waffle John. Honestly, I don't see it being competitive. We are miles ahead of WVU as a program. 6-6, 6-7 last 2 years. I'm not scared to play them. Tennessee will be the first test of the season. Vince, Waffle John on Panther Lair, poo-pooing WVU, not even concerned, might not even watch the game from what I could tell from him saying there. Doesn't even care. I don't know. I don't feel that way. It's always must see, and I'm always concerned with beating that team.
Well, I'd love to see the confidence. I'll tell you that right now. Whenever I read this, I was like, hell yeah, we're ready to go stomp a mud hole in these Mountaineers. I cannot wait for this game, Alan. It is going to be massive. I'll tell you something right now. Waffle John, he is partially right here. The WVU does not look good at all. They have been really struggling there. Guys transferring out. They're going to have some turnover at the quarterback.
They're a glorified position. Group of 5 team. I'll add in here on that, Waffle John. They're glorified G5.
They believe me when I say this. They are going to come in here. This game will make their season if they could win this ball game. I'll tell you that right now. This is what it's going to be all about for West Virginia coming up to the big city to try to win this game. But Pitt is going to have a lot coming back. They got to stay focused on this game. This is what everybody is going to be talking about all summer, this backyard brawl coming back. I don't care how bad WVU has been. We got to be focused. We got to go at them here. This is going to be a hell of a game. Cannot wait.
And for all you youngsters who don't know about this because it has been dormant for a while, just get ready. Just picture this. You probably can appreciate this analogy if you haven't experienced a backyard brawl. But just know that on that date at Heinz Field, it will be the ugliest day at Heinz Field since Kenny Chesney was there. It is not going to be pretty win, lose, or draw. And I am very invested in it. I'm not like Waffle John. It's must win. Vince, I don't know if I told you, I got a cousin who's mulling going into college next year, going to WVU.
For what?
I'm flipped. I'm very upset.
For what? Academics? Can't be.
I don't know. And these were his words too, and I just laughed, and I had to leave the room too. He said, I want to go somewhere where the sports are good. I can't help you if you're really considering it, but I don't know. We have some time. I guess they don't have to commit just yet, but my goodness. I guess there is the transfer portal later down the line. Oh, man, it's going to be personal this year for me. I can't freaking wait. The countdown is on.
It is. That's the next time we're going to see these Panthers in a real live game. Is that backyard brawl, Labor Day weekend, maybe the Thursday before Labor Day weekend. We'll have to stay tuned for that. Cannot wait for that one.
Can you believe it? Rib Fest, backyard brawls, kickoff to Steelers season 2. They might have to. Hopefully, we can get a new stadium and blow that one up. It's not going to be usable after next season. Heinz Field, my good. All right, I got one here from Gratata7 on Reddit, Vince.
Okay.
It's maybe a bit of a long shot, but if I'm Narduzzi, Larry Fitzgerald's on speed dial right now. Any other targets we could think of for wide receiver coach?
Well, I don't think Larry Fitzgerald's officially retired from the NFL yet, so I don't think he would necessarily be available. He doesn't have a coaching experience that I know of, but we are going to be looking for a wide receiver coach. I could not even fathom a guess of who it may be.
Me neither, but I'd love to see it. Although my suspicion with Larry Fitzgerald, my conspiracy theories, he's not retired. He's waiting for Big Ben to retire because he wants to come play with Kenny Pickett and the Steelers.
You could be right.
I would love to see that too. Last one here we got on the Pitternet. LFG2 Chi 4. LFG2 CH4 on Panther Lair. Let's effing go Channel 4. I think it's a WTAE fan.
Yeah.
Or maybe a employee. I don't know. Sally Wiggin on Panther Lair says, a friend and USC season ticket holder in LA told me Slovis lost his confidence once he got hurt. He won't run the ball, and he panic throws when he's under pressure. He's just not the same, but he was a stud at one time. So good luck. That may be the case, but if watching Cobra Kai over and over again has taught me anything, Vince, confidence can be lost and regained, even if your mohawk is shaved off or you get injured in a college football game.
That's right. And if anybody can put them back together, it's UPMC and Coach Narduzzi, as far as I'm concerned. He may. All this about running the ball, won't run and panic throws. He had a horrible offensive line in front of him this year.
Horrible.
As soon as Drake London got hurt, basically no receivers to throw to. A coach that was fired, and it just all kinds of craziness happening there. I am hoping, and I think we will get the Keaton Slovis of 2019. You could go back in the archives. We went over all this kid's accolades. Alan, I know you are so excited. Getting somebody from SC, somebody good from SC, is what's really what it's all about.
I'm so hyped. I couldn't ask for more from a transfer portal score, and I understand the logic in there. And that happens, injuries, confidence loss, but there's a lot of other factors you need to acknowledge, and change of scenery for lots of players over the all of history has resulted in big changes, improvements, especially in a young player like this. I'm not counting Keaton Slovis out, and no Pitt fan should just yet. I'm giving full support and hoping he's ready. So only thing I'm concerned is that he understands the importance of the backyard brawl. He's got to learn that soon.
Yeah, he does. Do you think he's coming here to be acknowledged once and for all?
I mean, he's going to hold up that big sword. What's that big sword they hold?
Yeah.
And I will acknowledge Keaton Slovis. I will hail to Keaton Slovis if he wins that backyard brawl in his first game as the Pitt Panthers.
He will be the head of the table if they could win that ball game Labor Day weekend.
It's the only way you could take it from Kenny Pickett. Do something he's never done. Win the backyard brawl.
Something Kenny Pickett could never do.
Kenny Pickett could never win the backyard brawl. Oh, man. put a pin in that for. I'm sure the Yinzers will be saying that come September when Keaton Slovis wins.
Pickett never beat WVU.
I'll just save that audio and we'll rerun it. All right, but let's hear what they're saying though, because they're talking around town after that loss, and it doesn't matter. There's a certain group of fans, they're just not going to be happy no matter what, even after a great season, and especially after a bowl game loss, Vince.
That's always very deflating every year.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Trying to find out what the Yinzers are saying.
I told Yins, Pitt doing Pitt, disappointing again in the big bowl game.
Okay, before you even go there, Nat, they were down to their third string quarterback.
Excuses are like parking tickets in South Oakland. Everyone has one.
They were about to take the lead right before that pick six, though. You got to give them some credit.
They lost by 10, dude. At least I heard that Marino's going to be the next offensive coordinator there.
Hell to
What the Yinzers are saying.
So that's what the Yinzers are saying. Still, I don't care what people say. A lot of optimism coming off of this season, despite a bowl loss there, Alan. There's
a lot of rumors about ex-Pitt quarterbacks as the next OC.
Yeah, there are, and I it doesn't seem like any of them are going to come to fruition.
If I'm praying for one, it's Palco is the next offensive
easily.
coordinator.
Yeah, it's both Palcos.
Could you imagine if Tyler Palco coached Keaton Slovis? How good he'd be throwing with both arms, ambidextrous. Be teaching him how to throw lefty.
He would. Alan, we only have one college football game left of the season, the national title game. I got to talk to you about it.
Oh, college football. Don't you dare try to sell me a bill of goods that's a playoff when we all know it was just tune-ups. The tune-up off is what that was. And now we get the game we all been hoping for, the rematch. Georgia, Alabama, and I got Alabama by 40, Vince. I don't think it'll be close. I don't think Georgia's offense has what it takes to keep up with what Alabama's got cooking with the Heisman Trophy winner. Now, talk about confidence. Bryce Young, I'm going Bama all the way. Angry Nick Saban, beaten a former student twice in one season, really cementing the legacy. And they're going to change the game because of what Alabama's doing this year now. They're going to have to start opening up these playoffs, make the games more interesting, leave more room for players to get hurt so other teams can win championships because I don't know what you could do. It's the same thing over and over again, and some people enjoy it. I do not. I was disappointed, and it was pretty much unwatchable, the playoff to me. And this game, I think, might end up being unwatchable. I don't see it being as good as Tua versus Georgia. I just don't see. Georgia's defense has been great all year, but this is going to be a different type of stage, and they've got that Bama team in their heads.
Well, you might be right on that. Before I address that, it was so disappointing to have two just blowout games in that semifinal, and there's been a fair amount of blowouts in that semifinal. I had no doubt in my mind Alabama was just going to wax Cincinnati there. Cincinnati, did they deserve to be there? I don't think so. They did have an undefeated season, but I'll tell you, any other team, that you look at, Notre Dame, Baylor, hell, even Pitt would have given
6 in one and half a dozen in the other. Doesn't matter.
No, they were still probably going to lose, but they would have given Alabama a better game than Cincinnati did. I'll promise you that. Michigan, I did not think they were going to win the game. I was not surprised by the result at all, but just bad coaching. I mean, do you think you're really going to be able to run straight ahead against Georgia? Do you really think you're going to be able to do these dink and dunk, east-west passes against Georgia, or just not stretching the field at all? I thought the game plan for Michigan was just not good. And I think that's why they lost the game in the fashion that they did.
Nothing worse than an underdog not taking chances.
Yes.
You can't win if you're an underdog and you don't take chances. I mean, playing that way when you are outmanned, outmatched, just doesn't make sense. It's as boring as a pair of khakis, and that's what they got, stomped, because they just were too boring in their game plan, and that's what they are. That's who they are. But it's still, you're right. Other teams might have made these games more interesting. I think adding a little bit of attrition into college football might not be a bad thing, especially if players are going to start getting paid and, have more options of moving around. Expanding the playoff, I used to be against it, Vince, but just this weekend really cemented to me.
Or you could make an argument that there should have been just a BCS system and they should have just put the top 2 teams in. Which that
would get rid of a lot of the headache, a lot of the BS lobbying, a lot of the nonsense.
Now, depending on what
save a lot of time.
Depending on what the computers said, Michigan was ranked number 2 going into this game. So yeah, maybe it would have been Michigan versus Alabama in that final game. I don't know.
That's why you can't go back to those days though, because you get that. And this playoff can be expanded a little bit, and especially, I think it will, because I think the spring football leagues that are being attempted, one will stick. One will stick, and the players are about to have tons of opportunities to continue to play football and meaningful football for money elsewhere. So you're gonna get more players leaving early and missing bowl games. You're gonna get more players transferring and maybe even leaving college football altogether. And I mean, the USFL's trying it this year. If that doesn't stick, the XFL the following year, maybe they both do. I don't know. I just feel like the winds are changing there. A lot more opportunity for players, which means that college football needs to react, and that's all they ever do. It's always reactionary. Once they are threatened with more of this and loss of money, and seeing how much more
losing money though? I don't think they are.
Well, they have these TV deals that are ridiculous, but when the interest is lost and the next contract comes up, they're going to have some juice, and the only way to do that is expand the playoff.
Well, you say that, but I didn't see the ratings. I did see. I think they were in like the 17 or 18 million range for those playoff games. Viewership for the New Year's Six was up this year over past years. The even some of these lesser bowl games are getting more viewers than prime time NBA on TNT games. Alan,
well, it's football.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why the spring leagues will. One's going to stick.
You would think
football rules.
You would think. I mean, the production cost a little bit different between the spring league and this here. I don't know. I'm not sure if the playoffs need to be expanded or not. I'm still waffling on that, because I'm still a firm believer of making this regular season so cutthroat, so special. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
It's still special. You got to win your conference championship to get in my playoff. I want 6 teams.
Okay.
I want a 6-team playoff, and and that gives you a group of 5 spot too. But that it's probably going to be, when it is expanded, I would guess 8. But the fact that the regular season, it means so much. We love that, but it's got to change, because you can't be having Kenny Pickett's and the like bowing out of what are supposed to be meaningful, exciting bowl games in matchups that we could only dream about. But the fact is, you're giving us boring exhibition games for people who aren't fans of those schools. I couldn't imagine someone watching Pitt, Michigan State, getting all excited, not a fan of either. Oh, this Davis Bevel gets a chance. I've been waiting to see him. Who says that if they're not a Pitt fan?
Well, you're right about that.
Or someone gambling. But that's also another thing that will influence this. I know you have to recognize that. You can't be pissing off Vegas this way, having a bunch of big time players missing these games and making them harder to handicap when you have all the data for the whole season, then it's just taken away with new blood thrown in the bowl
I
game.
would like to see. Well, I'd like to know the numbers from the sports books to see how much they're what the handle is for these games. I'm sure it's high, and I wonder if it went down. I bet it went up because there's more people just sitting around looking for something to bet on.
Yeah. And more states, too. They're able to do it, which is a good thing. But the USFL is drafting, I guess, next month is the rumor, Vince. Do you expect to see a lot of Pitt football players in that league and or the XFL?
I think we'll see some. We saw them in the XFL in 2020. We saw some, so I would expect to see some in the USFL.
If you're going to predict the next great Pitt Spring League football player,
oh, my God. You know what? It may be Nick Patty.
Nick Patty?
It may be.
Coming after next season, coming out and playing in the XFL. You see USFL or XFL?
I hope he's USFL, but we'll see.
Nick Patty to the Pittsburgh Maulers. Yeah, that'd be good to see. I don't know, but I feel like those leagues, as a lot of people might laugh at them, you know me, I love them. But also I think they'll be taken seriously because there's going to be a lot to offer to young players. And when you're talking about players of the elite caliber leaving early, just wait until players who are even further down the depth chart are getting opportunities outside of those bowl games. Things will change quickly. But yep, we got a national title game coming up, Bama and Georgia. I don't expect it to be close.
I'm going to disagree with you, Alan. Okay.
I
think
know you always believe in Georgia and think they can finally outdo Alabama.
Well, let me say this. Okay, so Georgia right now is a 3-point favorite across the board. You got to think that the sports book, you got to think people are going to be betting on Alabama. People are going to be betting on, I think Georgia is the better team. I'll tell you that right now. I think Georgia is the better team. It's just a matter, is Kirby Smart finally going to beat Nick Saban?
No.
It's almost like I need to believe it.
With a walk-on quarterback, I got to believe it to see it.
Well, I got it. Well, yeah. But, he is Colt Bennett's brother, and he won that state championship in Colorado. So that's got to count for something.
Hijo de Bo Bennett, you're right. I respect him. But come on. They already did it in a game they didn't even really need to win. They crushed this team. And now it's the national championship. They're not as rusty as they might have been. I mean, against Cincinnati, I guess you could say it, knocking some rust off. And they've got a quarterback that's just going to get better and better.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't tremendously impressed with Bryce Young this year. It's not like I don't think he's...
Me neither, but I mean, when you give a guy a Heisman like that, I think he did really unimpressive, but because we've seen so much great quarterback plays, but the dude is a great player, and he's only going to get better. He's only going to get better.
I am going to pick Georgia in this game. I think they're,
good luck.
I think it's going to be a little bit more. You're saying Alabama's just going to absolutely crush them. I'd be surprised if that's the case. I think it's going to be higher scoring than some people would admit. I'm looking at the total right now, Alan, mostly at 52. I'm seeing 52.5 at Caesars William Hill, at the Wynn, the Golden Nugget, 51.5 at the Rivers. Yeah, if you're looking for extra value on the over, I should say.
Give me that. 50-10. That's my prediction.
I guess I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd be shocked if Georgia won 50-10. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh my God, I'll have a heart attack.
That might be the end of Nick Saban if that happened. I don't think he could handle losing by that many points.
No way. They'd run him right out of town for sure. I'll tell you, we've been consulting our PFF data all year long. I'm not going to change now, and they're leaning Bama. Just to let you know, it looks like the data says
they're leaning Bama,
and a lot of people are because a lot of people are going to bet on them. It's just
people are going to pick Bama. I think so. I think I'm going to side with Georgia. I'll probably bet on Georgia in this game. I think I will. I haven't done it yet.
Well, in your case, then I'll root for Georgia because I don't want to see Alabama win another one, but I think they will, and it'll spark change because people are going to get tired of it. Put Alabama through an actual ringer. Make them play more teams.
Oh, they haven't played enough quality competition in the SEC.
Never.
Make them play more.
They should be playing teams like Pitt and Michigan State and USC. Oh, wait, they always beat USC. Never mind. All right, well, there you go. We've reviewed the season, previewed a national championship game, reviewed a bowl game, Vince. Great way to kick off the new year. Happy New Year to you, pal. 2022 has been pretty swell so far, although a lot of the COVID's returning, but hopefully everyone's staying safe. I am, on the other hand, staying safe and very excited for what's to come, especially with Pitt football.
Yeah, hopefully everybody stays safe. Because of that COVID, and the chaos it's causing in the basketball season right now. I think our shows are going to be a little sporadic in the next coming months. We're not going to be a weekly show coming up due to all the uncertainty and cancellation and postponement of games, but we will be having some shows here and there, so make sure you stay tuned.
Especially when Pitt lands Caleb Williams from Oklahoma in the transfer portal. We'll definitely have a show.
I don't think that is happening.
Right?
But if it does, believe me, we will have one. So you want to make sure you follow the Hail to Pitt podcast on all social media applications, and make sure that you subscribe on all of your devices, so
Very
that
important.
automatically,
you
want it to automatically get downloaded to your device so that you could listen to the show whenever it's immediately available, and whenever some big stuff happens, and as we check in on this basketball season and wrestling season, we will be keeping tabs on it, and we'll be providing some expert insight. And hopefully the men's basketball team could finally start winning some close games, Alan. And hopefully the women's basketball team can continue their winning ways. They've been doing very well
Big
so far this season.
Finally, yes, the work is paying off. And we're going to keep tabs on all of it. And we'll be giving you a fun space to Hail to Pitt. Like Vince said, probably not weekly moving forward, unless a ton of news starts coming in through the transfer portal, which we'll be keeping an eye on, and of course with Pitt football. And as things get more stable, maybe once the basketball season isn't so fluid and frustrating and make shows irrelevant, we're just going to give you shows as needed and when we can. But keep, like you said, subscribe, because when we do bust out those shows and they come out at not the standard, what we've been releasing Thursday morning for you or whatever, Thursday night, it'll go right on your phone. New show, and then you can listen to it. Tell your friends. Still doing shows. We're not going anywhere. I'm excited for them too. I'm just imagining now, Vince, someone who subscribes to the show. We haven't done one for maybe a couple weeks. Then all of a sudden, new episode alert. Hail to Pitt podcast. Hail to Dan Marino, new offensive coordinator. It could happen. It could be the next show we do.
I'd be a little surprised, but hopefully we do next time we do have a show. We have a new offensive coordinator to talk about, to join the reigning, defending, undisputed ACC football champion Pitt Panthers. Alan, we're going to be talking about them all until next fall, next Labor Day weekend, when they kick off in the backyard brawl against those Mountaineers. And we're going to find out next season, Alan, is it going to be and new or and still? That's what I want to know. Are we going to defend that title? We're going to be talking about it for months until we get ready for that big football season 2022.
You set us up for the year pretty well there, Vince, and that's, I think, where we're going to leave it. The champs are entering 2022, and so are we, talking Pitt football and Pitt athletics with you. Thank you for subscribing. Happy New Year to you. Hopefully you all stay safe. Continue to follow us on social media at H2P Show, and we will see you for the next episode, whenever that is. Vince, tell them.
Hail to Pitt, everybody.
Hail to Pitt.